It was pretty big news last week, the night before the Nintendo Direct, with the pricing of the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom being boosted up to $70. People were freaking out about this. Nintendo posted the price on their website and then removed it. Websites that were taking pre-orders for $59.99 were removing their listings. It was pretty crazy. And then finally, we find out for sure, yeah, the pricing is $69.99 for the standard release of the game. And there is a lot of disappointment out there, a lot of question. Is this what's going forward? Why is the Nintendo Switch, a system that has been out for a long time, like, why are they putting games out that are $70? This just seems ridiculous, right? And Nintendo has commented on this, and I thought this was still a pretty interesting discussion as things have kind of settled a little bit. And I've thought about it, and I'm really curious to hear your guys' take on this price point. $70 for the Tears of the Kingdom? Are you willing to pay that? I'm willing to bet that you are, because a lot of people are going to want this game. And if you want it, you're just going to pay the price that they ask. No questions asked. Or, I mean, you may ask some questions like, why? Right? And, you know, Nintendo's been pretty notorious over the years with the pricing of their games as far as like making permanent adjustments, like a game that's been out for so long. Okay, let's slash the price. They don't do that. Nintendo just doesn't do that. And you may argue, well, there's a bunch of first-party Switch games that are on sale for like $39.99. Yeah, they're temporary sales, but you don't get these permanent price cuts until they do like a Nintendo Selects or something like that. And they haven't done that with the Switch as of yet. And it's just something like you're waiting a long time for price cuts. So for them to be like, hey, we want $70 for this game. Yeah, I could see them deciding to do that. And I remember in this Ask Iwata book, there's a quote from him in there that talks about that specifically. Like, if we do like price cuts, then we condition the consumer to essentially expect it and then wait for sales type of thing. Which, I mean, you could still wait for sales, but there's never a guarantee with Nintendo stuff. And that's just kind of the crazy thing. So for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom being $70, why did they increase the price to $70? It's like a lot of people have been saying, oh, there's a lot of reused assets and stuff like that. From what I'm understanding, this is one of the largest games that Nintendo has produced for the Switch. It's supposed to be like over 18 gigs. And that's like, you know, maybe not the biggest Switch game, but it's one of the biggest Switch games that Nintendo has produced. So could that justify the cost of development behind it? Yeah, there's still going to be those arguments. Well, it's a lot of assets being reused and stuff like that. And I was just like, why are they charging it? Is it because of the development time? Is it because of the work that was put into it? Is it because Nintendo Japan decided to give raises to their employees, 10%, I believe it was, and they need to make that money back somehow to justify giving the raises? I don't know. I really think the reason that they changed the price to $70 is because they know you will pay it. And that's the only reason. Like, they want to make a profit. And they know, hey, this game's going to sell like hotcakes, so we're going to charge $70 for it. That's just the way it goes. There is a list I was looking at because I was like, okay, are they sure it's going to sell like crazy? So I just wanted to find out, like, was Breath of the Wild one of the top-selling games of all time type of thing? So I looked it up, best-selling games of all time. I believe Breath of the Wild, I got to recount this, either like 25 or something like that. On the list, it's somewhere like 20. It's somewhere in the middle of the best-selling games of all time out of the top 50 list. And they sold over 30 million copies. And you know, most of those were for the Switch. I don't know how many for the Wii U. But yeah, so looking at that, okay, they sold over 30 million copies. So they know Tears of the Kingdom and all the hype that they've been getting for it, it's going to sell like crazy too. It may jump into this top-selling game list, you know, fairly quick. It's quite possible. So yeah, that to me, that's the only justification, is they know people will pay it. That's just the way it goes. And you know, is $10 more than what we've been accustomed to a big deal? For some people, it may be. It's not going to break a lot of people who buy video games regularly. You know, you're not going to be like, oh man, I can't buy this because it's $10 more. But at the same time, there may be some people that are like, I can't justify it. And I understand that. Like, there's been plenty of things where with all these crazy price increases on food and whatnot, I'm like, oh, a case of eggs is like quadruple the price that I was paying like 6 months ago. Yeah, I guess we ain't eating eggs for a while. So I have to find something else as a substitute for Tears of the Kingdom. What is a substitute to Tears of the Kingdom? Another game, not another version of Tears of the Kingdom, because there isn't, other than the collector's edition that's becoming hard to find. That's like $130. So there's really not like an alternate. Either you buy it or you don't buy it. And, you know, Tears of the Kingdom's not the first game on the Switch to be like, hey, we're going to be charging a buttload of money for. Sure, there's a lot of collector's editions, different premium editions of games that jump that threshold of $59.99 because, oh, we're giving you some DLC, or we're giving you an acrylic piece of crap collectible, or some stickers or something, right? There's always been that. But there's stuff like the Final Fantasy collection, which you could argue, well, the price point is $75 for the standard because it's 6 games. So Square's just kind of computing that, okay, 6 games is what we would charge for each one. I say that's BS. Like, the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters should not be $75, but who am I? Who am I to say otherwise? You know, I don't get to dictate the prices here. $75 and it's sold out. You know, but that's the one problem is like something like this. Square Enix, like, are they afraid of money? They know people want this thing, and it's sold out. They know people will pay the $75 for it, but they're not putting more up. Oh, it's a limited. Oh, limited. They're you're gonna have to buy it digital, so we don't have to produce anything. That's what my worry is with a lot of this stuff. If you want the physical copy, it's some things are going to be so limited that, hey, well, do you really want it? You can get it for digital, digital copy. And you do have that option with Tears of the Kingdom as well. It's game voucher eligible, so you can actually get this game for $50 if you look at it that way, because the game voucher is like $99.98 and you get 2 games, but you got to be smart about what games you pick, right? So there's ways to save money here, but then you're being forced to buy something else. So are you saving money? No, you're not really saving money because you're spending more money to get something else. You spend $100 to get a game voucher and you're like, I'm going to get this $70 game. Then I'm going to get like the new Pokemon game. I'm saving, a bunch of money, whatever, right? No, you're not really saving money because you bought something else that you probably wouldn't have bought, just so you feel like you're saving money. There's always schemes here, you know what I mean? Another one that people pointed out to me as far as being a $70 game was the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Anniversary Edition. A couple of people brought this up to me. It's $70 digital. But I was like, well, this isn't really a standard release. This is a bundle, so it doesn't really kind of fit into that, right? And, you get those arguments about people talking about, and I've talked about this stuff before, it's like old games. Like, you go back, NES, they had a bunch of NES games. Like, what was the price point? It was the Wild West, man. NES going all the way up through the Nintendo 64. It was the Wild West of pricing. You would find stuff all over the place. Like, there was like no set price. And there really isn't now either. People say, okay, since the early 2000s, games have just stuck to that $60 price point. No, not everything. There's always been games that were released cheaper, different levels and whatnot. But I get it. Like the $60 price point was like the top level, right? And now it's becoming $70 for all consoles. Does the Switch really justify that? The Switch it should be at the end of its lifetime. Where's the new Switch? Like, that's the way people would be like, well, I could justify it because it's more, stronger, more powerful hardware. But this is not. It's the Switch. We're getting, a new game on old hardware that is really out of date, for the longest while now. Even when it released, it was a little out of date, right? But, you'll get people pointing this stuff out, and then how this money translates to today's money. Like, go back and look at Super Nintendo games. Like, holy crap. I remember I've said this before, like Final Fantasy 3. I think it was like an $80 game when I bought it. Like, games were just like, they just said, hey, we're setting the price at this. You'd have fighting games were always like $70, right? Look at that. NBA Hang Time was $70. And you'd have other things that were $40, $60, but things were all over the place back then with pricing. It was just a little ridiculous. With the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I seen that Game Informer reached out to Nintendo to like, hey, what's going on with this $70 thing? Like, is this the norm? Nintendo replied back to them that they're determining suggested retail price on a case-by-case basis. So they figure, and like I said earlier, I think my point is like they know they're going to sell the crap out of this game. So the case by case basis, the basis here was we're going to sell the crap out of this game, so we're going to make more profit. I think that was the only thing to justify it. But they're saying this is not like necessarily the norm. It's just going to be those bases. Like there's been so many Switch games, first party Switch games that have released over the past couple years that did not feel like full on experiences. Like they were not complete. Like a lot of the Nintendo sports titles and stuff like that. And it's like, would have you been happy to pay $70 for those games? Where it's like you got to wait a half a year to a year for the game to feel more complete? That would be ridiculous. So, I guess this is not going to be the norm, but I'm sure like if a Mario Odyssey 2 comes out, they know it's going to sell like crazy. I'm sure that's on the top selling list too somewhere. I'm pretty sure I saw it on here. Where's that at? It's got to be on here, right? Super Mario World, Super Mario Odyssey, over 25 million. It's on the top 50 list. So yeah, if a Mario Odyssey 2 comes out, you know they're going to charge $70 for it. Like any first party big releases, Metroid Prime 4 comes out. That's going to be a $70 game. Because what's the basis? They probably are pretty sure they're going to sell a buttload of them. That's just the way it is. And I find it crazy. Like I didn't realize it at first, but when I start reading through this list of the top 50 best-selling games, half of them are Nintendo. Like Nintendo published or developed games. It's freaking nuts. 25 out of the top 50 are Nintendo owned. These mofos are raking in the money, man. And they're gonna, like I said, let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Bye.